Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, so here we are for some more fantastic questions. We're going to jump to them in just a minute. But before we do, don't forget the YouTube magic. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment and enable notifications. That is how we grow the Kendo population. We've grown it more than 3 billion people already in the last 15 minutes. So we want to keep that going. All you have to do, like I say, is like, share, subscribe, comment down below. That enables YouTube's crack team of ninja robots to go out, find people to start Kendo, get them to start Kendo. Everyone starts doing Kendo, and that's all thanks to your efforts. All right, you have to leave a comment that uses the word Kendo so that they know it's Kendo that they have to get them to start. So write something like, you know, what an amazing, brilliant Kendo video. This is the best Kendo channel I've ever seen in my life. That sort of thing. And then, like I say, they know to get them to start Kendo, and then we're not like getting loads of people to start golf or something like that. Okay, so do that. More importantly though, if you like the videos that I am producing, all completely free of charge. There's no monthly subscriptions, there's no memberships, there's nothing like that. You don't have to pay for subtitles, you don't have to do any of that stuff. It's all free. Okay, whether it's these question and answer videos in the form of Kendo Rant, whether it's the feedback videos, whether it's the analysis videos that we do, or whether it is the instructional content that I put out as well, which I work very hard on. We've got some more coming very, very soon. If you like that stuff, don't forget to support the channel by shopping at kendostar.com. Kendostar.com is the best Kendo equipment website in the galaxy. You get the best equipment, the best service. It's just the best. Now, of course, I would say that because I own the place. But everyone agrees with me. We're the top rated on Trustpilot. We're one of the highest rated e-commerce stores at all, not just in Kendo, on Trustpilot. We've got like thousands and thousands of reviews. We're the best at what we do. All right. Now, don't buy twice. All right. I know you might see something and think, oh, look, that looks a bit cheaper there or something like that. But we're not a middleman. We're not drop shipping to you. I'm not operating this out of my living room or my mum's basement or anything like that. We're an established brand. It's our specific brand, especially for the international community. We've been doing this for years and years and years now. We're the best at what we do, and everyone agrees with me. All right. So you shop there, you support the channel. As the ancient Japanese proverb goes, everyone's a winner, baby. That's the truth. Right. Let's get to the questions. First one. Regarding the how to wear Borg video, the branding needs an update and the sound is inferior to all the new videos. Of course, the actual content is fine and valid. Thank you for explaining the Borg differences once again. I watched the presentation videos and more or less understood the differences, but it was nice to hear you confirm it once again before I commit. Cheers. No problem. So I think that was in response to your question last week. You said about update, if I was going to update the how to wear Borg videos. And another question, will I have time to take part in any Gordo Geiko at the WKC? So about the Borg video, yeah, I'll try and update it. Okay, I agree with you. It is pretty dated. It was one of the first videos that I put out on this channel, and I think this channel's been going 8 or 9 years now. So it is. I get it. It's dated. All right, fine, fair. All right. I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can update it. Okay. But content wise, it's all fine and dandy, right? Regarding Gordo Geiko at the WKC. The WKC is the World Kendo Championships. If anyone doesn't know that, the World Kendo Championships is happening like in just under 2 weeks in Milan, in Italy. Starts on the 4th of July. I will be going there. I'm the coach of the British team, the GB team. So will I have time to participate in the Gordo Geiko? I don't know. I'll be honest with you, the first time I'm participating in the championships as a coach. All right, I've participated in it several times before as a player, but this is the first time I'm participating as a coach. So I don't know if I'll have time. I'm not sure. I've looked at the schedule already. The Gordo Geikos are scheduled for like quite late in the days. So I don't know if I'll have I don't know. I've just got to say, I don't know. So I don't even know if I'm going to take my Borg at all yet. So I'm still thinking about it. Well, maybe. I have a lot to do, so. Okay, next one. Hi, Sensei, thanks for the video. On the topic of switching stances, at a recent Shiai I attended, the Shishin awarded Hansoku for changing Kamae, and several people I spoke with agreed that this is correct. Is there a reference you could direct me to which confirms or denies this? Okay, so someone replied to this comment and said maybe it was like a Q level Shiai where you weren't allowed to do Jordan. But yeah, all right, look, I've got down here, let me get it for you. I can tell you exactly the source. It's this. It's the rule book. It's the rule book. Okay. It says very clearly in here what is listed as what is Hansoku. All right. So Article 15, I believe it is, prohibited acts. All right. So something it has to be listed here. It has to be listed on this page. It's on page 7 of the book. So prohibitations. So they're prohibited from using drugs. Prohibited from insulting or acting offensively towards the Shimpan or opponents. Prohibited from engaging in the following acts: using non-regulation equipment, tripping the opponent or sweeping their legs, unfairly shoving or pushing the opponent out of the shiaijo, jogai or stepping out of the shiaijo, which is specified as having a foot totally outside the line, the boundary line, falling on the floor with part of the body outside of the boundary line, or supporting the body with part of with a part of the body or shinai outside of the boundary line. Okay. Then the next one is letting go of the shinai, requesting for a suspension of the shiai without a good reason. 7 is committing other acts that violate the regulations, which in the essentially, if you do something that's against the rules in here. So in terms of prohibited acts in Article 17, Item 7 includes the following. So what it means is putting your hands on the opponent or holding the opponent in your arms, taking hold of the opponent's shinai or grasping one's own shinai on its jinbu, which is basically the blade, taking hold of the opponent's, oh no, sorry, I've already read that one. Taking hold of the opponent's shinai under your arm, intentionally putting one shinai on the opponent's shoulder, lying face down after falling on the floor without counteracting the opponent, intentionally wasting time, and then doing an inappropriate tsubazeriai or datotsu. That's it. That's it. Then it goes on to what kind of penalty you get, all right? Because they're split into different ones. Obviously, like doing drugs, using illegal equipment, they're penalised with disqualification, and then the other ones are penalised with different types of hansoku, okay? So, you know, switching to Jordan is not in there, right? Switching your kamae is not in there, okay? Because it's not against the rules. So it's not against the rules of Kendo as the International Kendo Federation see it. It's not hansoku to change kamae, okay? So if there was a rule on that day for that specific shiai that said you're only allowed to play in one kamae, or you're only allowed to use chudan, for example, and then people were not doing that, then maybe that would be why. But as far as the official rules go, it's not the hansoku to change your kamae mid-shiai. Okay. Okay, next one. Hello, Sensei. Could you please explain the difference between a feint and a real semi? Thanks. It's not easy to explain, but essentially, well, put simply, did it work or not? All right. In that, I mean, did the opponent react or not? That's the difference between a feint and a semi. And sometimes they can be the same thing. All right. Semi means to kind of communicate your intention and elicit a reaction from your opponent. That's what doing the semi is. So the result of the semi, you could use the semi to make a feint and then hit somewhere else. If you semi towards the man, I'm going to hit your man, pam, pam, and then you actually hit the kote. These are the two working together, okay? And it's not that one is allowed and one's not, or one's correct and one's not, yeah? But a feint will never be successful without semi, okay? A feint will never be successful without semi. That's the key, I think, all right? So if you just stood there and you start trying to feint around the place, it doesn't work unless you've got certainly not against anyone with a bit of experience, unless you've already managed to affect your opponent with your semi. Okay, so they're two different things in terms of their application. Semi is what happens before a feint in a way, if that makes sense. If you search on here, if you search the Kendo Show, how to win Shiai, I think I did like a men semete kote or men misete kote or something like that, which talks about that a little bit. It's from a seminar that I did called How to Win Shiai, and I talked a bit about it in that. Hello, Andy Sensei. I've been doing Kendo for a year or so and I'm middle-aged. People remark about how I give 100% and I bring a lot of energy and kiai, but I seem to invent a new way to get injured every few months. Yeah, I know that. Looking back at the injuries, they're usually Jigeko related. The main feedback I get is from senseis is to relax, which I've been working on with minor success. I was wondering how to change my mindset or training to avoid injuries so I can continue without interruption. Taking it easy during Jigeko feels like I'm letting my partner and senseis down. Arigato. So it is a mindset thing. I think, when you're too tense in it, it's usually because you're really, I don't know, like maybe putting pressure on yourself, or you're a bit anxious in when you start doing Jigeko. It's like, oh, I don't want to hit, and I don't want to get hit, and I want to hit, and this sort of thing. You need to sort of, it's difficult. It's difficult because you do need to stay aware and stay focused and stay concentrated without being overly anxious. And I think that's where you get that's when that manifests in your muscles, and you get tension in your shoulders like this, and you start like that, and that can obviously lead to injury. But it's not easy, especially as we get older. I mean, I can empathize with you massively. I'm injured all the time. In fact, I don't remember the last time, like I was like, oh yeah, I've got no injuries. So, you've got to manage it at the same time, and I think a lot of that is also stretching, preparing yourself properly, stretching after you've practiced, and then making sure that you're looking after your body as much as you can as well. That means trying to get enough sleep, so that your body can recover, trying to like eat nutritiously, I guess. I'm not super good at that. But, I think that's part of it as well. I don't think you need to think about letting your partner and senseis down either, but it's not about taking it easy. But you also don't have to do like 50 attacks a minute, right? Do you know what I mean? You can concentrate and watch and try to learn, as well as hit, right? Receiving the strikes is also the practice. I'm not saying you should stand there and let them hit you either, right? But maybe you can try and figure out what patterns they're using and stuff like that, before you just start trying to hit. I think it's going to be a lot about trying to remain concentrated whilst also keeping a calm sort of composure. It's not easy, man. I'm not going to lie. It's difficult. Hello, Sensei. I'd like to ask a question about shaping the men to achieve the Mount Fuji look. I have heard that mendare should be tied so it's parallel to the height of the monomi. Others say, I think you mean the men himo. Others say it should be lower, right above the Chichikawa bar. What's your opinion? It definitely should be at the height of the monomi. Definitely. Chichikawa bar is too low. You'll get the tackle men. I have men here because there's another question about Borger. So I brought a Borger to talk about, and I'll show you exactly what I mean, okay? So, right. So, this is where it should be tied. Yeah? Okay, so here's the knot. Here's the monomi. It should be about the height of the monomi. It's a little bit low. You pull it like that, right? When you put it on. Yeah? So that then you can, I've just got this out of the bag. I'm going to try and shape this when I'm wearing it so it looks like this, right? It's a bit harder, I've not got a lot of space in here. Yeah. So you get this Mount Fuji shape you're talking about is like having the mendare shape like this, right? So it's not so you can see there that the knot is about the same level as the monomi. That's how it should be, like that, okay? When you're actually wearing it, yeah? Like that, yeah? That's straight, like that, okay? If you tie it lower, the knot goes down low like that, you end up with what we call tackle men, like that. Okay, like that. So you can see how it's a bit hard to see, I know. This has already been like shape loads, so it's already got a shape, but you end up with like this shape, where it's like, boom, like that, right? Like tackle men, it's called tackle men because it looks like tackle is octopus. And you know the octopus emoji looks like that. Yeah, tackle men. And it looks like that. I don't want to do too much this men because I spent a long time shaping it, but you don't want it to look like this. Yeah, like this. Yeah, that looks rubbish. Yeah, it looks like a, you don't know what you're doing. Okay, it wants to be shaped nice. Shaped like that. So this is about level with the monomi, and these make this diagonal shape going down from there. Okay, and if you look as well, you see the boga is stitched generally to be tied that way. Yeah, can you see that? Can you see that? Yeah, you see the line of the boga. It's designed to be stitched to be tied that way. Okay, so that's how you want to do it. Okay. Next, has the mentality to accept Hikimen changed over the last 20 years? Excuse me. I seem to remember it was easier to get points awarded for it. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think probably less people do Hikiwaza these days. Especially like since they changed the rules in the last couple of years. I think that's probably a thing, but I don't think that they're less likely to award it, you know? And in my opinion, at least from what I've seen. Okay, next one. Hi, Andy Sensei. I just out of curiosity, there's several sports in which grip is a major factor. Tennis, golf, angling, etc. Some of them are in constant evolution for the better, golf, while other ones haven't found a better modern option than the one used for many decades, like high-grade Portuguese cork in fly fishing rods, which will be a markets problem eventually. Do you think we can expect anything new in the Tsukagawa material? So you're talking about like the leather grip on the shinai. That's the Tsukagawa. I don't have one here, but you know, like, is there? Do you think we'll see like a new modern material for it that's maybe like a better grip? No, I do not imagine. I think the chances of that are extremely slim, because the current material is fine. It's accepted and it's cheap, and it does, you know, there's no issue with it. And arguably, I don't think that changing it would improve anyone's kendo or performance. I think that I've seen a couple of recent ones that have been like, you know, interesting ideas where they're like Tsukagawa that have got stuff in them so that you like it turns it to like an oval grip. So like it changes the shape of a round grip shinai to an oval grip. It's like got an extra bit on the bottom of it, so it makes it oval. And then I've also seen I've seen ones. There used to be ones that had like rubber grips on them, like little rubber grips on the Tsukagawa, but they got banned from the Shiai pretty quickly. To be honest, you got to remember that like in one of the rules in kendo is you've got to keep hold of your shinai, and if you drop it, it's penalty. So anything that gives you an advantage over avoiding a penalty like that would be looked at potentially as you know, through the lens of whether it's fair or not. So, you know, I don't think so. I just don't see it happening in the Budoga industry, in the equipment industry, to which I'm extremely well connected, and I've got my ear to the very close to the ground. I know exactly what's going on pretty much across the entire market. I haven't heard anything of any sort of development of that, and I'm pretty sure I would have. I'll be honest with you. Okay, here's one that just popped into my wee brain. Do you have any particular thoughts, insights, and clever tactics one might use against a opponent who uses a low kamae? Say often hovering just above the horizontal. Why might a person choose or not choose to go to this kamae route? Cheers and thanks. So conventionally, if someone has a lower kamae, okay, so instead of like this sort of thing, if their kamae is too low, then their men is exposed and so is their tsuki. right? And what I also find is somebody that fights with a low kamae often tends to raise their hands if you go to attack the men. Often it's like because they've got two real options. If their shinai starts lower than yours, they've got two real options to hit you if you hit men. One is they could do debana kote from below. If they're very good at that, great, but it's quite a tough waza. Or they're looking to, or they can raise the shinai up to do some kind of kaishi waza. They're gonna really struggle. They're putting themselves at a disadvantage to hit debana men, for example, when your shinai is starting above theirs, right? So my experience is people that have the kamae that's a little bit lower is seme towards the men tends to bring their hands up. So that's another thing to consider. Yeah. Because they know that their men is more exposed, right? So they're going to be a little bit more defensive of that way. You're going to have, you're obviously going to have trouble hitting their kote. So that's that. So sorry, I know I'm coughing a lot today. I've got like proper hay fever allergies going on. So yeah, in terms of why you would choose or not choose to, you could do it because, it definitely protects your kote. It might be, in a way, it's a good way to put seme towards the other person's kote as well. So some people do that to put seme towards the other person's kote, and when they start to defend the kote, then they'll hit the men. So there's that as well, but it comes with its risks as well. Like I say, to defend yourself, you've got to bring the shinai in a bigger movement, and you are exposing your men and gi to attack. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. You need really good footwork to use that sort of command, I think. Right. I've wondered in Japan why some sensei have their prefecture name on their zekken. I sometimes see high-ranking sensei, 6, 7, 8 dan, with the prefecture name like Osaka, and sometimes I see them with their dojo name. So, yeah, it's pretty common in Japan, that, actually. It's interesting you mentioned Osaka. My friend lives in Osaka, and he told me that there's a sort of thing in Osaka where to have Osaka on your zekken, like the done thing is only to do that if you've like represented the prefecture in some sort of tournament. But I'm not sure how like widely accepted that is in that area. I don't know, because I didn't spend that much time there. In the areas that I lived in Japan, it was quite normal for everyone to own 2 zekken or more, one for the dojo and then one that just said the prefecture on it. So when I lived in Kyoto, I had one that said Kyoto. When I lived in Kumamoto, I had one that said Kumamoto, and when I lived in Fukuoka, I had one that said Fukuoka on it. And it was just so that like when I went to like a particular, if I went to a sort of keiko, let's say I went, it depends on the context of the keiko that I went to. Okay, so if I went to the keiko at my dojo, I wore my dojo zekken. If I joined a shiai with my dojo, I'd wear my dojo zekken. All right, because I was on my dojo team. Usually most shiai I would wear dojo zekken as well. But it depends. Because I was entering from my dojo, and then later when I moved, when I lived in Kumamoto, for example, I entered from my company Kendo Club, so I had my company name on my zekken. But then there were sometimes other things I go to, where it would be like lots of people from lots of different places. And I wasn't there on behalf of my dojo or my company or anything like that. I'd just gone to like a Godo Geiko or something like that. And there's, so people knew I was where each person is from. They'd often use that one. Or often people will use it when they just practice at lots of different places. So that's why, to be honest. It's like if you go to Kyoto Taikai, it's a big gathering of Kendo people. You go to obviously people join that representing a particular prefecture, but also in the Asa Geiko, for example, it's a massive keiko. Like the people there from all over Japan. So it just helps recognize where in Japan you're from. Like, whereas if it says something dojo, nobody knows where that is. For example. So yeah, it just depends. But because I did a lot of keiko when I lived in Japan. I did it a lot of different places, and a lot of the time I was going there like just as an individual on an individual basis. It wasn't like a dojo visit or something like that. So I wouldn't wear my dojo one. I just wear the one that said Kumamoto or whatever. So yeah. Next one. Hi Andy. Hope you're all set for the championships. I guess you mean the World Championships. This week's question: Please, can you possibly help? Please, can you possibly, with the help of kanji, explain the differences or similarities between kakegoe, kiai, and hasse? Thanks. Okay, yeah. So time for Andy's Japanese class because I'm super qualified to do that. Okay, so these are all words that are generally used, let's say outside of Japan for now, to mean shouting, all right? And I say outside of Japan because kiai is the one that's mainly used outside of Japan to mean shouting, okay? So kiai is here, okay? Kakegoe is this one, and hasse is this one, okay? So the key is in the kanji actually, but the funny one is kiai, the one that we use the most in Japanese kendo sort of practice. In my experience, rarely do they use the word kiai to mean shout. It's just connected to shouting with a loud voice, because there's a term in Japanese, I think, that's kiai o ireru, which means to like use your spirit, or like put your heart into it, right? So when like a sensei something would say more kiai, you know, have more kiai, or you know, that sort of thing, it means to put more effort in, put more heart into it, yeah. And that's obviously often expressed through the voice, yeah. But it doesn't literally mean the action of shouting. It means the action of putting effort in, or putting your heart in. Do you know what I mean? So that's how that's actually used. It's just in the West, we've sort of changed that to mean shouting. And I don't think it's a kendo thing. It's like, it's come over from other martial arts, that I'm sure. Because I know in like karate and stuff like that, they call shouting kiai as well. So I don't know where it's come from originally, but that's that, like, these days, I never heard in Japan someone say, you know, do the kiai to mean shouting. If they're telling you to have more kiai, they mean try harder, put more heart in, yeah. So then the two main ones that are used are these two, kakegoe and hasse. Hasse is used the most, all right? Hasse is generally what the All Japan Kendo Federation uses in lots of its documents. This just means to shout, okay? To shout, hasse. So yeah is hasse, men, kote, do. These are all hasse, okay? So like I'm trying to think of the right like English translation of the kanji of that, but it kind of comes from that. It is I've got it on my phone here, I'm just checking it. It means like I'm trying to pick the right one, but it's like, because there's lots of meanings of this kanji here. It means lots of things. This particular one, this one is voice. The second kanji is voice, yeah. But like this one can mean like emit, or put out, yeah. It sort of means that in this case. But it's used a lot in a lot of different it's a kind of a word we don't have, but we, you know, it means, in this case, it means like to put out. So put your voice out, yeah, man, this sort of thing. Kakegoe, it's kind of lesser used term, but this is voice as well, and this kake is like to put onto something. So this, in my experience or my understanding, I could be wrong on this, but for me, like kakegoe has more of the image of just the initial yeah, rather than the like kote, men, do, because you're like, it's the voice, and for me, like the image of it, and I could be wrong on this, but it has more the image of like putting the voice to the opponent or to the aite. Yeah, it's like yeah, this is like the kakegoe. Whereas if you're like kote, I'm not sure if that gives me the idea of kakegoe or not. I'm not sure, but as I said, the word hase is the most common. Hase. This is what the Zenken generally uses. Okay. Next one. Since at a recent tournament, one of the players had landed awkwardly and twisted their ankle, it seemed badly. The player opted to continue the match. I was told that the player is the one who decides if they continue or not. Can the Shushin tell the player that they are too hurt to continue? That is an interesting question. Shall we have a little look? Okay, so I've had a quick scan of the rules, and I think the most relevant part is this one. It's on page 16. It's section 2, article 30. It doesn't clearly state. All right, but here's my sort of take on it. It says in case a shiaisha is unable to continue the shiai due to injury or accident, the shinbain shall ascertain the cause and handle the matter in the following manner. 1. The shinbain are the 3 referees, by the way, shall determine whether to continue the shiai after consulting with a doctor. As a general rule, the shinbain should spend no more than 5 minutes handling an accident. In a case that shiaisha is unable to continue due to an injury, if the opponent is deemed to be responsible for the accident, intentionally or not, the opponent shall lose the shiai. And if the cause of the accident cannot be ascertained, the injured shiai hunosha, shall lose the shiai. Okay, that's what it says. And then there's more, and it's not really about that. So the correct procedure in like a as this goes is it's not really up to the player or the shimpan. It's up to the doctor. It's up to the doctor. But it says the shinpain shall determine whether to continue the shiai. Okay? After consulting with the doctor. If there's no doctor, then they can't consult with it, but they can still determine whether to continue the shiai. So my interpretation of that is the shinpan get the final say. The shinpan say, look, no, we're not continuing the shiai. Then they don't continue the shiai. And you know, I think that's the way it would normally be handled. And if it's because they fell over themselves, hurt themselves too bad, to continue, and it's not the fault of the opponent, then they would unfortunately lose. Next one, Handy Sensei, can you please explain the differences between the Kote Tenuchi materials? Is deerskin more durable than synthetic, more comfortable? Does it get slimy? I'm seeing some mixed answers online, so some clarification from an expert who's tested many Borg would be a fantastic help. Thank you. I would say that deerskin, I think durability, I don't think there's a lot in it. I don't think there's much in it in terms of durability. The slimy thing, I think that comes from probably not letting it dry properly, or potentially you don't tend to get that with the synthetic leather in my experience. And I've only really had that on like cheaper like cow leather. I've not had deer leather get slimy all that much. Now, I'm going to be talking, the next question's about like aged Borgo. And this is a pair of Kote that I've got that have deerskin palms. Now, this Borgo is about 6 or 7 years old now. Maybe 5 years old. This is the original Vanguard Praetor set. This is the set that's in the photos of the of the Vanguard Praetor on the website. This is the original sample that I made for me to test it, and I still use it. I've never had the Kote palms changed. All right, I don't use it every single time, but you can see I've used these Kote a reasonable amount. They're not like I have used them a decent amount. Now, I've not totally battered them, that's true, because I've got a lot of Kote and I do rotate them around, yeah. But they are, they're holding up very well. There's no sort of holes on the right side. Oh, people often sometimes ask me about this hole here, right? They'll buy a pair of Kote and then in a couple of months they'll contact me and say, I've got a hole in the thumb here. This developed in this Kote, and I've got the same in the other one. Yeah. This developed in this Kote after about 4 weeks of me wearing it, I think. And it's been like that ever since. And like I'm 5-6 years in now. All right. Because it's just a place where I guess the way I grip the shinai perhaps causes particular wear against the scar. It's pretty normal. It's pretty normal. I don't care about it enough to worry about patching it, because I think I'd wear through a patch as well. It doesn't bother me whilst I'm actually practicing. But as you can see, other than that, the palms are in actually decent condition. You know, and these are genuine deerskin. So I think sort of you probably do get a long term, you probably do get a bit more durability out of the deerskin, to be fair. With that in mind, because synthetic leather does tend to like what's it called, like pilling or something, with use over time. But the worst thing is cow leather. When you have cow leather on the Kote palms, it's terrible because it just doesn't act well with moisture. And I think that's where you get the slimy ones. And they're the ones that sort of crack and stuff when they're dried as well. But these are like these are still soft, and you know, obviously we only use decent quality leather at Kendo Star, of course. So there's that as well, I suppose. Okay, if you can get the deerskin ones are the better. Let's just put it that way. But modern, at the same time, the modern synthetic stuff is a lot better than it used to be. It's a lot better than it used to be. So there's that as well. Okay. Last week I posted a question about seeing premium Borgu getting through training. I'm posting earlier this week, so I wonder if you would bring out the used Akatsuki for showing this week. Speaking of Borgus, can you discuss some about the Budorgan market? A big Borgu company can make premium Borgus with square stitching on deerskin, commonly listed $2,000, at a significant cheaper price, like $1,000-ish. Or the square stitching pattern of a hand stitch set is found to be sub $800. Hand stitch doesn't have square stitching, by the way. But anyway, there must be something about these cheaper sets. But of course, I don't know anything about how they were made from one paragraph on the website. From your enthusiasm in your videos about Kendo, I can see Kendo Star already has an edge over many of these big companies. Spamming questions here and wearing your gears won me a championship. Good. I would just pick up on one thing, in that I understand you're sort of probably comparing us to some of the big companies in Japan, which are probably overall quite a lot bigger than we are as Kendo Star. But for a Borgu company, we're pretty big as well these days, in terms of our market share and what's the word? Production volume. We're one of the big fish these days. Anyway, so I didn't bring my Akatsuki set, right? I had a look, and I brought my Praetor set instead because it's older. And I'll be honest, like, I've had my Akatsuki set for about a year, and I got it in January 2023. So I've had it, what, a year and a half? And I've worn it a lot. I've traveled all over with it, and I've like been to full day seminars in it and squad trainings, and I've really tried to, and not tried to, but I've just worn it a lot because I really like it. And I got it out, and I was like, this doesn't really look all that beat up. So I felt like I'd get the Praetor instead, because it looks a little, I've had it longer, like I said, I've had it about 5 or 6 years now. So this is the Praetor Men after about 5 or 6 years. I have used this a lot, actually, as well. Now, but as you can see, it's not like battered or anything, right? It still looks pretty good. You could still take a grade in this, no problem at all. I probably like paint the membrane again, but even that's not too bad, right? It's not too bad. This will always chip off in the first couple of uses, right? You'll chip off some of this in the first couple of uses probably, and then it'll get to something like this, and then this is where it sort of settles down. That's what it did with me anyway. But you know, you can see where it's been hit a bit at the top, and the leather's sort of faded a bit where it's hit, especially when I shine the light on it. I've got a very bright light on it here as well. You know, you can see that some of the colours fading where it's rubbed against my shoulders a bit. But you know, all in all, it's holding out pretty well, actually. I was kind of, because you asked this, I kind of went to the shelf, had a look at all this stuff, and I was like, well, I'd say I'm pretty impressed with how well it's held up, considering how much of a tough time I've actually given it. So, you know, and this will come on to your you know, your question about different price points for what seems to be the same Borger. But I think it's fair to say that this Borger is a good investment, because you know, I know I'm only 5 years in, 6 years in probably with it. But I feel I've used it a lot, and I use the Cote quite a lot, actually, because I like these Cote. So they're super comfortable. They fit me really well. They're super comfortable, and they look really nice. And you can see they started to fade a bit. This is the right one. So this is the one that gets hit a bit more. So you see it started to fade a little bit. This light's super bright. So like, to my eyes, it's not as bright as it's looking on my screen right now. But, you know, and in terms of holes in the Cote, I showed you already, just a couple in the thumbs, and they've been there for a while. You know, and you got a couple of little things, like there's a little bit of thread that's come loose or what have you. But hey, you know, like, I've been battering these for 6 years, and I couldn't be happier with them, really. I think they're super good. And I'll show you the Tade too. The Tade as well. I was really surprised. I was honestly expecting to go and get my Praetor off the shelf and it'd be like a little bit run down, but no. It's, you know, it still looks pretty new. It's not too bad at all. Now, I bet if I took that Tade name off, you'd probably see. I don't know if it'll come up on there. You can probably see there's a slight difference in the colour where it's been hidden and the rest of it's faded. I can see that in like here in person, but it's not so clear, I guess, on the camera. And obviously there's a little bit of wear on where it's worn against my abdomen there. But otherwise, you know, I'm super happy with it. I'm very impressed. Now, I've got to be honest. I've got to preface it, yeah, and be honest and say, don't forget, I've got a lot of Borger, right? A lot more than the average person. So even, you know, if I do Keiko 3 or 4 times a week, which isn't unusual for me, I'll probably only wear a Borger set once, maybe twice, if I'm really into it. Like, at the minute, I'm loving my Kamui Umbra, and I'm really, and so I'm basically, I'm using that quite a lot at the minute. So, but I wore this. What have I done? I've done 4 Keiko this week so far. So the first one, I wore my Kamui Umbra. The second one, I think I wore the Praetor. Third one, I think I wore my Umbra again. And then the fourth one, I wore my Akatsuki. Because I've got the Koten as well, but I'm sort of saving it. So yeah. So that's, you know, that's the way I sort of use them. So I've only used the Praetor once this week, and it's had a few weeks off, to be fair. Because I've been getting used to wearing the Umbra. I've been enjoying using the Akatsuki. You know, I've got a lot more than most people do. So, you know, if you only had this Borger and you practice 3 times a week, it would show a lot more wear than this after 5 years. There's no doubt about it. But if you look after it properly and you care for it, then there's no reason why it won't last. Now, in terms of your question about the Borger market, right? So there's a lot of things that affect the price of a Borger set. All right, a lot. Now, I'm not sure where you're finding a Borger set. Well, I mean, it depends, right? Akatsuki is it's a high price Borger set, and it's got the square stitching on deerskin, yeah. And yeah, for the men Cote Tade set, maybe even with the door, you're gonna pay $2,000 easy for that, and you could get the same for 1,000, probably, you know, or even something like Preto, right? Preto is not nearly the same price as Akatsuki. Now, there's a difference in that Akatsuki is, so you might see a similar price, a similar specification on paper as you see with Akatsuki. Let's say 6mm cross-pitch stitching on deerskin construction, right? But Akatsuki is 100% made in Japan, especially for your measurements, right? Whereas if another company is like mass producing stuff, obviously not in Japan and not made to order, they're going to affect the price. And then you've also got different qualities of the materials. All right, you've got different qualities of the materials. Now, as I say, Akatsuki uses the best. It uses the best you can find. Same with Koten, right? Whereas you might find something on another website that looks like it has the same spec. It also says deerskin, but it's not the same quality deerskin, and it's definitely not the same quality craftsmanship. All right, and there's a lot of stuff that's like, there's a lot of stuff that you can't see as well. And you know, if unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, the sad thing is, unless you really know Borger, it can be hard to tell. You know, unless you really know Borger, it can be hard to tell whether this is, you know, the one from this company is really worth the extra price that this company is selling. You know, this company selling the same specification on paper for half the price. Is this one really worth it? And an expert that knows what they're talking about would be able to tell the difference in build quality. You know, like there's a certain aspect that you know, it's difficult to communicate to you how to understand build quality, right? But when something feels like it's been built well, there's an aspect of that too. All right, and of course, you know, if something's super mass produced, if one company's making, you know, 500 sets of something a month, whereas another company's making the same specification, but they're doing one set for you made to order, of course you're going to pay more for that made to order service, right? Okay, and the playoff there is, yeah, you're going to pay a cheaper price, but it's not going to have been made to your sizes. Now, that's not necessarily always a problem. But then also there is a bit of a race to the bottom as well with prices. If something looks too cheap, you know, I don't know for a fact, because I don't really know what other companies are selling these days. I don't take much interest because I'm only interested in making sure we're doing the right thing. But I do know that some of them out there are indeed racing to the bottom, and there's all sorts of stuff going into the Borger. I've seen stuff where the fillings of the kote are filled with old newspapers instead of the proper filling. I've seen where the shin of the Borger, the actual padding inside the futon, it's like recycled carpet underlay instead of proper absorbative, is that a word, material. You know what I mean? There's all sorts of things they do to cut corners, and to save costs like that. You know, I've seen stuff where there's like been broken bits of sewing machine needles in the futon, all sorts of stuff, right? But honestly, right? So, you know, it's difficult to just say to, you know, this one, yeah, those two have got. This is why I don't like to talk about like stitch width on our website too much, because you can't compare the stitch width, and it's not the right metric to compare it by. You know, Preto is 6mm, right? Now, 20 years ago, you said to somebody, right, this is a $1,000 6mm Borg set. They'd be like, what? I remember when this sort of stuff first come out, actually, when I was first getting into the industry, there was a very, very popular set of Borg at the time made in Japan. Doesn't exist anymore. The name of it's still about. The name is still about, but the production of it's completely different. And it was like, oh, it's 6mm Borg, and it's like $3,000 a set, and everyone was like, what? $3,000? I want to get a 1.5mm for that, because at those days you just used to measure by the stitch width. You just think that was what everything was, but it's just not the right way to do it. It's just not the right way to do it. So that's, you know, this stitch width is important in different ways. It has different qualities. Wider stitches are good for some things, tight stitches are better for other things. All right, now I've got a whole video about that you can go and watch, but you know, you can't even just base it on the spec either. All right. So even if something looks like for like, but one's half price and one is more expensive, of course you don't want to pay over the odds. And to some extent, you might pay more. The other thing as well is, right, all right, sometimes people come to me and say, okay, well, why is Kendall Star more expensive on this and that than this company is? And the other thing is to run a business like Kendall Star, the size of Kendall Star, as I say, I'm not operating this out of my dad's garage or something like that. Do you know what I mean? We're an established business. We're a legal entity. We pay tax for a start. Yeah, a lot of it. You know, that sort of thing. To run a business of that size and provide the quality and, more importantly, well, not more importantly, but equally as importantly, the service. It costs more. It costs more to do that. All right. Now, I could have taken this business in that direction, like lots of them did. Just like, okay, well, let's just buy, you know, 500 Borg sets a month as cheap as we possibly can, and we'll knock them out as cheap as we possibly can. And I'd probably have made more money doing that, to be honest. But that's not what I'm in this for, and I've never been in for this. All right. And I think there's a clear distinction. I was listening to an interview actually from this is Kendall Rant, so that's why I'm rambling. I was listening to an interview today from another Borg company owner in Japan, somebody who I do know of. And they made a comment that really resonated with me. And it was like, it's really clear to understand the difference between the Borg shop that's owned by a Kendall practitioner and the Borg shop that's not owned by the Kendall practitioner. And it really is. From this side, it's really easy to distinguish the difference. It's really easy to tell. So anyway, the point is to deliver the quality of service that we do. So for example, you know, not just the amazing quality products, which we do, but making sure that it gets delivered properly and safely. And if there's a problem, we're able to fix it for you. And you know, all that stuff. Yeah, it does cost us more to operate in that way. But it's important to us to operate our business with that level of dignity. So, you know, so that's another thing that does come into it, right? It's worth understanding that too. Okay. So yeah, I hope that answered the question. Anyway, that was the last one, because the last comment here says, Sensei, regarding the WKC, that's the World Kendall Championships, we've got a brilliant meme here. Good luck. We're all counting on you. What a brilliant meme that is as well. Wonderful Leslie Nielsen. What a genius he was. Don't call me Shirley. Right. Okay. So, thank you very much for joining me today. I think we had some great questions there. Next week, I will have a show, I think, and then I don't think I'll have one after that. So think of some questions, because next week, is going to be the last chance you're going to have to ask them until the second week of July, because I am going to the World Championships. Okay. So if you're going to WKC, I hope to see you there. Have a great weekend of Kendall. Shop at Kendall Star, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.